Hey yo, fellas, we made men. Try to believe that within. I just wanna be a good man. Okay, I know you are, but tell me you a good man. Tell me you're a good man. So many men are being crushed. Societal demands to be tough. Yes, you are enough. Okay. I just wanna be a good man. I can't relate to you, brother, cause you're a good man. Yes, you are a good man. Listen, I'm right beside you, I'm right behind you. I know that life could be hard. That right? You're not a coward, you got the power for talking about your scars. No, you're not soft. Let me inspire you, empower you, because society may wanna see you fall. You got another brother to call. So many men are being crushed. Societal demands to be tough. Yes, you are enough. Don't bluff. Okay. I can't relate to you, brother, cause you're a good man. Yes, you are a good man. Hey, I'm here, my brother. You know I love you. Yes, you are enough. I just wanna be a good man. I can't relate to you, brother, cause you're a good man. Yes, you are a good man.
All right. Welcome to the M.A.D.E podcast, where we have motivated, accessible, disciplined, and expressive men. We are here challenging the male narrative and dismantling this false sense of masculinity. I have a special guest here with me today, man, and I'm so excited to have him here. He's family, he's blood, he's my cousin, my big cousin. But I have the Reverend Kenneth Weeks here with me today. How you doing, brother?
Man, all is well, man. Everything is good, man.
Oh man, I'm glad to have you on, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself right now, brother.
Well, hey, before I do that, let me just do this, man. Let me give you some love real quick, man. Let me say I appreciate what you're doing. I've been following you for a minute, man, and I feel your passion and your enthusiasm with everything that you're doing, man. So big shout out to you, man. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Man, I appreciate that, cuz. I appreciate that, man.
But as my cousin said, I'm Reverend Kenneth Weeks. My father, husband. I have 3 daughters, 2 grandkids. Just trying to be the best man that I can be. It's really simple and straightforward for me. It's what it is, man. You know me.
Hey, this dude right here. So a little bit about Ken. He's not going to speak about it all. He's a real chill, humble, laid back dude. But I remember when I was younger, man. He's a couple years older than me, man. This is one of the smoothest, coolest, realest cats that I ever came in contact with. And when you hear the connotation Reverend, like, you can't put him in this box and think that he's a religious and holier than thou. I'm not saying he's out here backsliding, but what I'm saying is he makes the being a follower of Christ, being a humble servant of Christ, he makes it real. He brings it home and he shows you that I'm not perfect, but I strive every day to be better. And he was always an example for me and my brothers of, you can be cool and still be all about God and doing the right thing and living right. So, as you hear his laid back demeanor now, don't get me wrong, man, this brother is a really good dude, man. And he was an example to me and my brothers coming up, man, of what it is to truly be and do the things that you need to do and live that Christ-like life. And also, this dude here, he won't talk about it, but I got fond memories of this dude, man, the car clubs. He was really in the car clubs when he was younger. Yeah. And I still remember the VW. He had a Volkswagen, and that thing was, first, I remember the blue truck. Then he had, I don't know the order he had him in, but I remember the blue truck, and that thing was sick. But he had this red VW, and he had a wall system in the back with was it 415s or something like that? Like, man,
yeah, that stuff's pretty heavy, man.
Yeah, this is it was amazing, man. But you was always an example, for me and my brothers, man, of just having fun, but also living right and doing well, man. So for you, and I know that, but we're going to share with the people, for you, as when you were growing up, what was your example of a man? Like, what and who was your example of being a man?
This is going to sound a little funny. My mom and my dad were good examples of manhood. My dad was pretty old school in the sense that what manhood meant for him was like you go to work and you take care of your kids and your family, by getting up and going to work every day. But at the same time, my mom really put a lot of things into me as far as, how you treat women, how you treat yourself. So they both really played really important parts into what I am today. I got a bit of the old school flavor from both of them, but you know, throughout the years, I just ran into good people who were able to pour into me, and so I wasn't able to stay necessarily caught in the box of being old school, but at the same time, I was able to relate with you know, what manhood should be for 2020. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does. It really makes a lot of sense. I love the fact that you pointed out your mom, and that's huge because a lot of times, um, you know, when we talk about manhood, we always refer to it coming from a man, or you know, it has to be a man, the one that's going to teach us. And I had a
Yeah.
conversation the other day with you know, a doctor out of out in Michigan,
Uh-huh.
and she asked like, can a woman raise a boy to be a man?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you know my background. I come from a single parent. I come from a single mother, and I'm
Right.
like, no, she can't raise me to be a man, but she can teach me certain things that are expected. You know, when it comes to traits of a male, when it comes to you know what a man is supposed to do in regard to how to treat a woman, how to treat how to be there for their family. So, what's your thoughts on a woman being able to raise a boy into a man?
Man, it's I think that it kind of fits into our conversation, my life, in the sense that my dad was an over the road truck driver.
Yeah,
So, you know, he was on the road maybe 2 to 3 times throughout the week where we didn't see him. So a lot of what I did pull from being a man did come from my mom. So I think that there's important things that a woman can pour into a man, but at the end of the day, there has to be throughout that journey, there has to be some type of male connection, because I believe that a man can best display or share what what a man's role is positionally, both in his family and in his role as far as society goes. Because, you know, I think women can definitely, and they have, and can will continue to be important role models for men, but it can only go but so far. Not to say that it's any less or any more, but there's just certain things that I believe, just my thought, that women can do for men throughout their journey, both from when they're growing up to, you know, adulthood.
absolutely. I definitely agree, man. That's deep, and the fact that you threw that in there about your mother is made me realize, like, you know what, women do play a very important part into the growth and maturity of from a boy
Uh,
to a man. So I get that.
yeah.
As a boy, man, what did being a man mean to you?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure that I really thought of it a lot as a young person directly,
Hmm.
um, other than just seeing my dad just getting up and going to work every day. If something needed taken care of in the house, he took care of it. If a
Yeah,
car broke down, he took care of it. Um, you know, he always made sure that when he was at home from driving truck, when he was at home, he always had my brothers and I with him. If he was going out and about doing things, we were with him. If he was outside working on a car, cutting grass, we were with him. It wasn't until, and forgive me if I'm jumping ahead, but it wasn't until we got a little older that he started pouring more relationally into what it meant to be a man. A lot of that was just a lot of what I learned was just visual when I
hmm,
was younger. But as I got older, he began to pour more of himself and his experiences, his journey of manhood into me and into my brothers. And as I said, there were some other gentlemen along the way that were able to
yeah,
pour into me as well.
yeah. What was some of those things that your dad gave you that truly stood out to you and stuck with you throughout the years?
Oh man, my dad was he was a man of very few words, but what he said was usually impactful.
Hmm.
I'll give you a really good example. When I bought my first house, it was raining out really bad. You know, I hate moving anyway.
Yeah.
Um, my wife and I was moving the stuff in. The family was helping us move stuff in. I was just ready to get it done. So we got into the house. We put like the last piece of furniture in, and my dad's standing by my doorway, and he's looking outside, and he's like, "Man, it's really pouring down, raining outside." He said, "I guess you guys could really go through anything." And
Hmm.
I was like, how in the world do you relate this pouring down rain to my walk in life, and
Yeah.
it was so impactful for me
Yeah.
that I just broke down crying right there on the
Yeah.
spot, because I was like, wow, like where did that come from? So he was a person of very few words, but whatever he said, it was usually impactful, and it would stick. It would stick to me. Another thing that he would share was like if I was going out clubbing, or if I was, I mean, back in my school days, if I was going to a school dance or just
Yeah.
hanging out with, or whatever, he would say, as I was leaving, he would just always say, "Remember who you are."
Yeah.
And that was it, man. He was just, less is more type of person, but it always stuck to my ribs.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I get it, man. So, being that, your father, you say he wasn't a man of many words. How did you guys deal with the emotional part of it when it came to expressing your thoughts and your feelings? How did that work for you?
Yeah, he because of trauma in his life, I didn't learn a lot of that from him. I learned a lot of that from my mom.
Yeah.
And she was really, um man, she was just in great position to help us, to let us to know that it wasn't a bad thing for a man to cry. It wasn't a bad thing for a man to show his emotions. It wasn't a bad thing for a man to open the car door for his girl. But it wasn't until, like I said, a lot of the relational things didn't happen with my dad and I and my brothers until we got older. And
Yeah.
when that happened, man, I got to see and I got to hear a lot of his experiences. I got to see him, broke down and shed tears and express his feelings, that he wasn't able to share as a younger person.
Yeah.
I got to learn a lot of that stuff. Thank God, before he passed away. So,
Yeah.
it really stuck with me. Even, like I said, the visual was there, but the relational stuff came later. And when I put it all together, man, it's just who I am today because of those two worlds coming
Right.
together.
Right. And how does that impact you now moving forward? Now that you have those two worlds combined,
Mhm.
how does that impact you in your daily life with being a husband, being a dad, a granddad? How does that impact you?
Yeah. I can look at the world through a lens that a lot of people are afraid to look at the world through.
Mm.
For example, there's a brother that I follow on YouTube. His name is Dr. Darius Daniels,
Mm-hmm.
and he shares this principle. He calls it the principle of perspective.
Yeah.
And what he says with that is, he says, um, what you see, or where you sit, determines what you see.
Mm.
So what he meant by that is, if you're sitting from a position of culture versus a position of life-giving relationships, it determines the actions that come based off of what you see. So if I could just put that all together,
Yeah.
what I mean by that is when I look at the world, I look at the world through a lens of, I'm an empowered, I'm a I'm putting myself in positions to be successful. Um, putting myself in position to demand respect from people without even being intimidating by it. Um, I'm able to interact with people on a level that, if I can be really transparent, I'm interacting with people who, when they see this African American male, they're getting more than what they expected.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm able to treat my wife in a way that, as much as she pours into me, I can pour into her. Like I said, I have three daughters, so I have to be able to sit with them and look them in the eye and show them that, when you're looking to get with a guy, you're not getting with that guy because you need him. You're getting with a guy because you want one, not because you need one. And I'm able to relate with them on a female level as well, because I had my mother also pour into me to help me to understand that, these are the ways that you interact with women. You don't put yourself in position that where you're demanding things from them, because that's not a true representation of love when you demand it. So I could go on and on and on. There's just so many things that put me in position just to be successful.
Yeah.
Because if I'm honest, the world that we live in, there's systems that are against Black men.
Yeah.
So if we're not prepared, we're putting ourselves at a deficit, on beyond the deficit that's already against us.
Absolutely. I think one of those ways to be prepared is learning how to really manage and master those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I put a post out the other day about being mindful of your triggers, being mindful of the things that people out here doing, so you don't react in a way that's going to cause you to be in an unsafe situation. Like, it's one thing to protect yourself, and self-preservation is the best law known to man, but it's another thing to be intentionally provoked and triggered, and then you respond in a way that where the same rules that apply to others who do things don't apply to you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, my thing about it, when it comes to emotion, man, as far many men struggle with their emotions. When it comes to your emotions, what was harder for you? Whether was it identifying what you feel, processing through what you feel, or effectively communicating the things that you feel?
I've never had a problem with communication. I would have to say that putting the dots together with how I felt and how it would come out. I've never been afraid to cry, but at the same time, I would have to put myself in position to recognize where the tears were coming from. You have this big thing of emotions that's going on inside of your body and in your brain and in your heart. And, just trying to determine where that was coming from, like what was the source of it. And, once I got to the source of it, like I said, I never had a problem with communication, so I could communicate it. But I would even say today, sometimes that is a struggle, just determining what the source is. Because like your body will let you know, when there's something going on inside.
Absolutely.
And, determining what that is often can be a struggle for me even today.
Yeah. That's I love it, man. So many times we feel as men that one, we don't have emotions, and two, if we're feeling a certain emotion, that means we're weak, or we're soft and things like that. And that's so far from the truth, man. And that's what
It is.
prohibits a lot of men from truly working through the things that are going on with them and being able to process and express what's going on. Our emotions are so important, man. And and one thing I try to relate to, man, is that our feelings aren't the enemy. You're allowed to feel what you feel. The important part is not allowing those feelings to dictate your behavior. So, that's now that you're older, and how has your definition of manhood or masculinity changed over the years?
Um, I'm just one of the blessed ones that, despite the trauma that my parents had on both of their sides, I just had two parents who just were willing to pour everything into their kids. So I always had a good vision of what a male looked like. So I wouldn't say that it has changed. I would just say that it has evolved.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say that it has evolved into an extension of what was shared to me.
Right.
I would say that it's their focus more back in the days was more of old school values and stuff like that. Like you go to work, you come home. That was simply the definition of a male that way. Well, the evolution for me has been like I've taken those values of going to work and taking care of my family and doing all that stuff, to also being that person who is relational with my family. I sit down and talk with my wife. I sit down and talk with my daughters. I'm intentional about doing those things. I'm intentional on asking them how they feel. I'm intentional on telling my wife how I feel. I'm intentional on being a better listener, and rather than talking all the time. I'm just trying to be an active listener rather than a shadow listener. Just the evolution of what was poured into me, and taking the old school mentality and kind of merging it with a better understanding of, just like you said, taking your emotions and being able to verbalize those things, rather than having a mindset of, you don't have to be this strong, intimidating male to define you as a man. It's like I'm a man and I express my emotions. So that's if anything, that's more strong, showing more strength when you're able to do those things. So if you put it in that perspective, if I can extend on that even more, nowadays it's still a problem in my eyes, where you have a lot of young brothers who feel as though that masculinity is defined by having their chest poked out, or how hard they are, or how many females they got or this or that. And, you know, it's just so far from the truth of it, of the matter.
I mean, brother, that's you're hitting the nail on the head. So keep going, brother. Like that's real stuff. My question to you, and I seen you growing up, and I saw like just how cool and laid back you are. You weren't that aggressive, rah type of person. How did you bump up against the expectations of masculinity, societal norms when it came to your peers and other dudes your age? Because you was always in the church. Like you was always in the church, you was always serving the Lord and doing. So how did you bump up, and how did you manage and deal with other people's expectation of what a man should be or what you should be as a man?
Wow, that's a big question. Uh, Man, I just have to. I can't take any credit for myself, man. I just had really strong parents, and even when I didn't want them to, they forced the Lord down my throat.
Yeah.
I mean, and as you said, you know, I've always been in the church, but the church wasn't always in me.
Right.
So I after, although my parents were my example, as I got older, um, I began to focus my life more on the example of what Jesus has shown me. And I mean, it don't get no harder than Jesus.
Yeah.
Like he was a true boss.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know nobody who died for the sins of the world and took all that weight on
Right.
himself.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah. So when you take and you try to model your life after the principles and the walk of Jesus Christ. I mean, we not only was he God, but he was a man too.
Yeah.
So Jesus got mad. Jesus got upset. Jesus cried. Jesus was relational. He sat with sinners. He was transparent. So you know, just when it came to bumping heads with what society or what other people or what culture has said about their ideas of masculinity, it was I would say in my younger years, I would dibble and dabble of, you know, into what that looked like.
Yeah.
But it just didn't sit with me. It just didn't. It was too much work, to be honest. Like, that's work. That was too much work, man. I don't got time to fake in front for everybody else. So it was like, you know, I wasn't that guy to be trying to get all kind of females and all that. I ain't saying that I wasn't you know, I tried to do my thing or whatever. I tried to do that, but at the end of the day, it was like that's just not what it is. That's just not the view of what I was shown to what a male looked like. And usually whenever you know, I had some good brothers that I hung out with, but they was about a lot of the wrong stuff. And what ended up happening was a lot of them went down the wrong roads, and they didn't come to realize that their view of what a man looked like led them down a lot of the wrong paths.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as they got older, and this is no dig against them, a lot of them ended up looking like the life that they went through.
Yeah.
And so as a result, you know, I was able to pull away from, you know, those ideas of what manhood looked like only by the grace of God. And you know, I sit in front of you today only blessed and by the grace of God to be what I am today. So when it came to that, trying to intersect those two worlds, it ended up, rather than intersect, it ended up just being a clash. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And I think for you, like, because you was in the car scene, you had a bike at one point in time, you was out, but you was able to remain true to your version of who you are and what you know, like with me with football, it was about how hard you can hit, how fast you can run, how many girls you can get. So when you have these subcultures, whether the bike life or the car scene, it's always these expectations of what being a man actually is. And I think that's damaging for a lot of people, because who's to say really what manhood is? Like, there's not a one size fits all for the ideal of a man. So when it comes to you, what were some things that you would pass on to the younger generation or any man that's listening about masculinity and what that means?
I think the first thing I would say is, you know, whether you're a Christian or not, you know, I understand that there's a lot of people who aren't believers and stuff like that, but I would just say that just try to find someone who models what a man looks like as best you can. Try to educate yourself as best you can. I think that if what you're doing currently isn't working for you, try to find someone who's doing better. And it's not even necessarily that you have to approach them and talk to them, how they're doing what they're doing. But if you just pay attention to what they're doing, you'll get a lot of nuggets into their life just by what they're showing you versus what they're telling you. And then on top of that, if what they're showing you becomes attractive to you, have a conversation.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with them to see how they got to be what they are. There's nobody alive that has the perfect life. We all have bumps and bruises that we have went through, and when you see the scars on a person, whether they're internally or external, there's stories to those marks on their body and the marks on their heart. So, it's good to hear a person's story, and let those stories speak to you, because there's a lot of unexposed and a lot of hidden knowledge that a lot of people have that if we're just willing to take the time to listen, we'll all benefit from it. So change your perspective. How do you view life? How do you view culture's idea of a male versus the idea of a life-giving person rather than a life-taking person? So change your perspective. Get a better perspective if you feel you have the wrong perspective. That helps a lot. So how you see things determines your actions behind it.
Yeah.
So those two things, just perspective of how you see things, and try to pay attention to people that you feel are doing more action rather than lip service.
Absolutely. That's key right there, man. Especially the part about action.
Yeah.
Action
Yeah.
speaks way louder than words, man.
Yeah, it is, man. It is. It is. Because nowadays everybody's saying something. Everybody.
Yeah, there's chatter. Like you had to distinguish between that chatter. You had to really discern between everything that you're hearing, man, because you're hearing so much, and a lot of times it's easy to get caught up in that, which you think
It is
it's supposed to be, but it comes down to defining what it means to you, defining your values, defining and getting clarity around your standards, and then holding to them and living that life that you desire and deserve. I think a good point you said, if and I'm gonna paraphrase, but if you're not getting the outcomes that you want,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a key teller right there. That means something isn't working.
Yeah, something got to change.
Yeah, we had to do something differently, and a lot of times, and I say this to men often, man. You have to get out of that river in Egypt called denial. You understand? You have to stop denying and allowing yourself to make excuses and feel comfortable when you're not getting what you want. Like, our outcomes are a direct reflection of the life that we're living and the choices that we're making. And if you're not
Yeah.
getting the outcomes you want across all areas of your life, then it's a problem. We have to do something different. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
let me ask you this, man. And as men, we don't want to acknowledge this, but how do you deal with stress? Like, we get stressful. So what are some things you do to manage your stress or the challenges you face daily?
Oh man, big question. Believe it or not, I actually washed my car for
Why not? Yeah, why not?
I either wash my car, cut my grass, or drive, depending on what it is to
Yeah.
relieve stress.
Wow.
Just the everyday norms of dealing with people on the regular. Just the thought of the bigness of taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, making sure they're all straight. The craziness of this COVID-19 and all that. A big stress reliever for me, like I said, is washing my car or cutting grass or driving. I like to drive. If it's nice outside, I like to be outside and just being in that air. But if it's something that's really, really troubling me or really weighing on my heart, I try to talk to my wife, man. My wife's my best friend. We talk about everything and anything. And, you know, we bear each other's burdens, man. We carry each other's weight. I also have a mentor who, although he and I don't live in the same state, man, we're just a phone call away. I've called him up on several occasions and just unloaded. And man, he's poured a lot into me throughout the journey, and you know, just that's important, man. Being able to have someone that you can share with, which men don't really necessarily gravitate to doing. So, and I'll be the first to tell you, like, I don't share my business with everybody.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, I just matter of fact, to be honest with you, I don't even trust well.
Yeah.
So to be able to learn how to trust has helped me to deal with stress even in that regard. So you know, on the light side of things, just going outside, washing my car, cutting grass. When things get a little intense, just sharing with my wife first and foremost, and you know, my mentor, and you know, as also being a Christian, you know, I lay it at the foot of the cross too, man. So it's important.
You know, that's awesome to hear. You know, stress is so natural. We're going to deal with it. We're going to have overwhelming thoughts and feelings, or distressing thoughts and feelings, or uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. We're going to have situations that come up, and I relate to men all the time. It's not what happens to us, but how we handle it.
Yeah, yeah,
The clients that I work with, man, I'm always talking to them about how do we manage the things that come up in our life. We got to create
hmm
a safety plan, and basically, the safety plan is basically just about finding our joy. Like if you
yeah,
ask people what they like to do, they can't really tell you what they want or what they like to do because they never really take time to think about it. But the way to
mhm.
combat that stress, to practice that self care, is to do things that you like, to do things that bring you joy. And for you, you're out there washing your car. For
Yeah, yeah,
me, it's taking a long drive or hopping on a motorcycle and just
yeah,
riding out with the music blasting.
yep, yep,
Those are the things that bring me joy and allow me to work through the stress to make sure I'm responding more effectively, thinking more clearly, and able
yeah,
to deal with it and manage it. So I love the fact, I'm gonna throw this phrase on it, but I love the fact that you practice self-love, self,
yeah. Oh yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I'm saying? And a
yeah,
lot of men
man.
don't want to identify with that, but
Yeah,
that's what it is. We have to practice that self-love and self-care to combat the daily grind of the
yeah,
day, the week, the month, of relationships, of expectations, of being a father,
yeah.
husband,
You have to,
grandfather.
man.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to. I mean, as a male, we understand that the weight of the world is on us.
yeah,
And if I can even extend on that even more, as an African American male,
absolutely.
you know, there's a lot that we're up against, man. We have a whole system that's against us.
Hmm.
You know, to try to navigate through that in a way where we can be impactful without being intimidating. That's a big deal. I
Yes,
mean, to you know, dealing with all that and then to come home and have to carry the weight of, you know, your family and all that along with it, like that's a big deal. And then another thing that you mentioned that I really like that you said is that you know, trying to find your joy,
yeah,
like that's super important, because culture says nowadays that culture would rather have us focus on happiness
yeah,
rather than joy.
yeah.
And we got to know that difference. Happiness is temporal, whereas joy is what's lasting.
Brother, I say that one more time. I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like
Yeah,
I heard
yeah,
Kirk Franklin say it before, like, happiness depends on what's happening. You understand what I'm saying? But
right,
break that
right.
down one more time, brother.
Yeah, man. Happiness is, you know, those things that you know, they're temporal things. Like we can be happy that it's a beautiful day, but there's another day that's coming.
Yeah,
But joy is what's lasting. You know, it's a good day today. It might be a bad day tomorrow, but wherever your focused joy is, that's what's lasting. So joy is what sticks, whereas happiness is temporal.
man, I love it, brother. I love it. That is very impactful. And he says something else too about as far as being a black man, man, trying to be impactful without being intimidating.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crucial in this world, man. You
yeah,
to be you and to let your greatness shine in the world without intimidating people, while also making sure you're not shrinking yourself so
right.
others don't feel intimidated or uncomfortable around you. So that's a tricky, path to navigate, man. But
It is. Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna ask you one last question, brother, and I kind of I think I kind of know what it is. I want to hear you say it, brother. Like, what type of legacy are you leaving in this world?
Oh wow. Wow. I'm really thinking about that as we're having this conversation now. That's something that's been on my mind.
Yeah.
I recently went back to seminary and began my journey in pastoral leadership again.
Okay.
And that's something that has come across my heart and my mind. Like, what will I leave?
Yeah.
So I think the short of it is that I'm leaving a really good family behind. Should I leave this earth, God forbid, but if I do, I'm leaving a good family behind. Um, I believe people will understand that I'm a man who never compromised what I believe. I never compromised myself. That a man who's loves his family, who wants to see all people do good, no matter who you are. And it's not a period right there. I think my legacy is still developing, that's for sure. But at this present time, that's where it's at right now. So man, I just want to, as the cliche said, I just want to see people win.
Right.
And it's just right there, man. That's where it's at right now.
Man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Listen, brother, I appreciate you taking time with me today, man, to help me dismantle society's false masculinity, man, and put your spin and your twist and your truth on this, on changing this male narrative, man.
Yeah.
Cousin, I love you, man, and
Likewise, man. Love you, brother.
doing, brother.
You too, man. You too.
All right, good brother.